everyone, a very warm welcome. You're watching Gravitas with me, Molly Gandhi. Let's get started. Our top focus tonight on the eve of the crucial talks between the US and Iran signaling openness to reaching a nuclear deal, but also at the same time conducting major naval drills, sending out a strong message. In fact, America also showing willingness to pursue diplomacy while at the same time keeping its military options open. The question still is, how far are the two sides willing to go, both at the talking table and also on the ground? That's coming up in just a bit. Also on the show for you tonight, getting you the latest from the battlefield as the Russia-Ukraine war rages on. Also telling you all about the AI Impact Summit being hosted by India as it eyes a bigger role in shaping the future of AI. All this and more coming up. West Asia at this point standing at a crucial juncture. Tehran is talking of a deal, but also at the same time, along with its regional allies, it's warning of devastating retaliation. Washington speaking of diplomacy while also keeping the military options open. And amid all of this, talks between the two sides are set to resume in Geneva. So all of this is happening on the eve of those talks. But the military preparations also continue. So the question is this the last chance for peace or the final countdown to a regional war? We are decoding all of this for you on Gravitas tonight. And we are starting off with Iran's Revolutionary Guards Navy holding a major drill in the Strait of Hormuz earlier today, aimed at what Iran says is testing the readiness of operational forces in the face of possible security and military threats. The visuals showing Iranian naval boats in action, along with live fire drills. Now, just for context here, Iran earlier threatened to close the Strait of Hormuz in retaliation against any attack. And such a move could potentially choke a fifth of the global oil supply, also sending out crude oil prices to rise sharply in that scenario. The strait connects the biggest Gulf oil producers with the Gulf of Oman and the Arabian Sea. That's not all. Iran's military commanders threatening devastation if Washington or Israel pull the trigger. Major General Saeed Abdulrahim Mousavi, the chief of staff of Iran's armed forces, publicly warning US President Donald Trump to think twice before considering military action. And he described Trump's anti-Iran remarks as insulting and contradictory. Mousavi has been also questioning Washington's intent for that matter. He said that if Trump truly seeks negotiations, why threaten war? And he went further, warning that if war erupts, Iran will, quote-unquote, deliver a lesson that Trump will not forget. Meanwhile, on the diplomatic front, Iran says it is open to a new nuclear agreement, one that it claims benefits both sides economically. In fact, Iran's Deputy Foreign Minister for Economic Diplomacy has said that any deal must guarantee tangible gains for the United States, including cooperation in oil, gas, mining, even aircraft purchases, further claiming that the 2015 nuclear pact failed because it did not secure American economic interests. Now, in 2018, as you may remember, Trump withdrew from the 2015 agreement, formerly known as the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, and reimposed economic sanctions on Iran. Now, the second round of talks between the two sides, the US and Iran, are set to resume in Geneva from Tuesday, with Iran's foreign minister and the US delegation, including envoy Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, expected to be in attendance. Prior to that meeting, the Iranian officials are saying that they are ready to compromise on aspects of their nuclear program, provided sanctions are lifted. And with Iran's deputy foreign minister also saying that the ball is in America's court, there are talks of peace, but at the same time, preparations for war clearly remain firm. The United States is deploying a second aircraft carrier to the region. It has reportedly drawn up plans for sustained weeks-long military operations if the talks collapse. American forces are already amassed in strategic positions. There are also reports that Washington stands ready to back Israeli strikes on Iran's ballistic missile infrastructure if diplomacy fails. And that's where the situation grows even more tense, even more volatile. Iran's regional allies have stepped in, not with calls for calm, but with threats. Hezbollah has warned that any attack on Iran would spark what it calls a total war across the region. And while there are reports of the Houthis reactivating their missile bases and deploying its missile launchers to the Red Sea coast for targeting crucial shipping lanes, should Iran come under any attack. While Hamas has also warned Israel and the US that any war against Iran amounts to an attack on the entire Muslim world. Even the Taliban, for that matter, now voicing support for Iran, stating that Afghanistan would assist Tehran if the US launches strikes, while also claiming it prefers diplomacy over war. What's clear right now is the stakes remain high. Tehran's diplomats offering cooperation, signaling flexibility, while at the same time, its generals are threatening unforgettable retaliation. And its allies are promising hellfire if Iran is attacked. On the other hand, Washington keeping its military options on the table while keeping the door to negotiations open. Which path will prevail is the question. Diplomacy or an escalation that engulfs the region? The coming days and weeks could decide which path will be chosen. Shifting focus for now, Ukraine has been firing domestically manufactured Flamingo cruise missiles on strategic Russian targets. But now Russia, in a targeted strike, has destroyed a missile hub inside Ukraine. It is seen as a big blow to Ukraine's strike capabilities, in fact. Russian forces claiming to have captured 12 new settlements since the start of February. And this comes as both sides are due to meet once again for talks in Geneva.
The night sky over central Ukraine torn apart by a series of high-precision Russian missile strikes aimed at the heart of Kyiv's long-range ambitions. The target was the primary assembly line for the Flamingo, the domestically produced cruise missile that has served as Ukraine's most potent weapon for deep strike operations inside Russian territory. The facility that reportedly recently ramped up production to target Russian airfields and depots was effectively neutralized. While President Zelensky has stated that some equipment was successfully relocated, the immediate loss of such a sophisticated manufacturing site cripples Kyiv's ability to mass-produce the missile. Flamingo is a Ukrainian-produced ground-launched cruise missile. With a 3,000-kilometer range, the missile can carry over 1,000 kilograms of payload. As the smoke cleared from the industrial ruins, The situation on the southern front is growing increasingly dire. Russian armored columns backed by the disruption of Ukrainian defenses have achieved rapid territorial gains. Russian artillery units and tactical missile systems are now reported to be within striking range of Zaporizhia.
Enemy units are suffering significant losses. In February, the settlements of Starokrainka, Pridorozhnoye, Zaliznichnoye, and Svetkovo within the East Force Group's area of responsibility came under our control.
The buffer zones that once insulated this industrial powerhouse are being ground into dust, forcing Ukrainian commanders to move defensive resources south, even as their domestic supply of heavy munitions falters. Ukraine, on the other hand, launched a swarm of long-range drones that targeted the Taman port and oil storage terminals in Russia's Krasnodar Krai. Kyiv has increased attacks on Russian energy infrastructure in recent days. Against this backdrop of escalating fighting, high-stakes trilateral talks between envoys from Russia, Ukraine and the US are scheduled to take place on Tuesday in Geneva. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
India making a landmark stride in the global AI arena with the AI Impact Summit 2026 kicking off today in New Delhi. The summit was inaugurated by Prime Minister Modi and is expected to bring together some of the world's most influential tech leaders, CEOs, government representatives, and industry experts in order to shape the future of AI. Spanning over 500 events and sessions, the summit also serving as a trade showcase for more than 840 exhibitors. It ranges from AI startups and research labs to global tech companies, all highlighting India's rapidly expanding AI ecosystem. The summit is themed around people, planet, and progress. It aims to basically establish international cooperation to build a sustainable and responsible AI ecosystem. It also eyes ensuring the benefits of AI reach developing nations without compromising governance or ethical standards. And adding to the summit's significance, the French president and First Lady are visiting India during the summit, with President Macron scheduled to meet Prime Minister Modi and attend summit events in Delhi. The summit also putting the spotlight on the massive bets that global tech giants are placing on India. Microsoft, Amazon, Google have committed over $67 billion collectively to expand AI infrastructure, and this includes state-of-the-art data centers and AI research hubs. Intel had also announced a partnership with Tata Electronics to manufacture chips locally. These big bets are clear signals and announcements of the arrival of India as a critical player in the global AI supply chain. And India's own AI ecosystem is thriving, to say the least, with planned future AI cities in Visakhapatnam, Bengaluru, Hyderabad, to startups that are gaining international recognition for outperforming global models in optical character recognition, for example. The country's focus on sovereign AI, developing models, data policies, domestic talent is also aimed at enabling citizen-scale applications across governance, healthcare, finance, education, also giving India the ability to control critical AI infrastructure while also fostering homegrown innovation. Switching gears for now, Europe is rearming not with tanks, but with ideas once considered unthinkable. Nuclear weapons are back in the conversation, with a nuclear-armed Russia looming as an ever-present threat, and now there is growing uncertainty over the reliability of US security guarantees. In fact, European leaders intensifying the debate over whether the continent must strengthen its own nuclear arsenal to safeguard its future. Take a look.
Transatlantic unity cracks under pressure. Old alliances fray. Europe is preparing for a far more dangerous future. Europe's nuclear debate has burst into the open and the shockwaves are spreading fast. From Warsaw to Stockholm, politicians and military planners are openly questioning whether Europe can survive without its own nuclear shield. For nearly 80 years now, Europe has relied on the American nuclear umbrella to deter potential adversaries. With America stationing its nuclear weapons in several European countries, but the extended deterrence has always been a delicate balance, depending on Washington's willingness to risk nuclear conflict to defend its allies. While the US and Russia have thousands of nuclear warheads each, in Europe, only France and Britain have atomic weapons. Now the calls are rising for the nukes. At the Munich Security Conference, the tone was unmistakable. European nuclear deterrence is no longer a taboo. French officials hinted their arsenal could serve a broader European role. German strategists discussed strategic autonomy. Sweden, long a champion of disarmament, is now openly debating whether neutrality without nuclear protection is a gamble it cannot afford.
Europe has to learn to become a geopolitical power. It was not part of our DNA. We conceived ourselves as a political construction to provide peace. We delivered. Second, a single market to provide growth and prosperity. We delivered. Now we have to reform it in this new order. In this new geopolitical environment, Europe has to become a geopolitical power.
The prospect of a European nuclear deterrent presents unprecedented challenges. Extending this umbrella across Europe raises complex questions of commitment, capability, and control. If Washington hesitates, delays, or disengages, deterrence collapses in seconds. Developing an independent nuclear program would cost tens of billions of US dollars. It would shred decades of non-proliferation norms. It is bound to Russia. It could trigger a chain reaction across the continent. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
रास्ते में बीएलए वालों ने हमें पकड़ लिया, अभी हम उनके पास ही हैं। पाकिस्तान आर्मी से गुजारिश करता हूँ कि इनकी जो डिमांड है वो अच्छी तरीके से पूरा किया जाए।
Pakistan's military establishment is facing a fresh crisis in Balochistan. The Balochistan Liberation Front has now issued a 7-day ultimatum to Islamabad. The Balochistan-based outfit reportedly captured 17 Pakistani soldiers as part of Phase 2 of the operation. As per BLA, 10 of these personnel were released after being issued a warning owing to their Baloch identity. The Baloch rebels revealed that the remaining 7 personnel were tried by its own court. They were sentenced to death for allegedly committing war crimes, aiding and abetting enforced disappearances, and participating in what they are calling Baloch genocide. However, the outfit expressed willingness to exchange these soldiers if Baloch prisoners of war are released by the Pakistan government within a period of 7 days. During the first phase of the operation in January, remember, BLA struck at the heart of Balochistan province by launching simultaneous attacks in 10 parts, including Quetta, and claimed to have killed 220 security personnel. However, Pakistan claimed otherwise. It claimed to have eliminated 216 militants while citing low fatalities at its end. The BLA's latest offensive coming barely days after the Balochistan government announced a bounty on 39 individuals wanted on charges of militancy. This included a reward of 0.25 billion Pakistani rupees for the BLA chief. Meanwhile, BLA claiming to have activated its air and drone warfare unit. It stated that this unit carried out drone attacks on Gwadar port, targeting the Pakistan Army's military and communication infrastructure, causing considerable damage. Pakistan, remember, has long struggled to contain activities of the Baloch rebels who are seeking independence of Balochistan from the country. Islamabad has come under fire for repressive measures like routine arrests and also enforced disappearances of the locals. In March last year itself, the BLA hijacked a passenger train when it was going from Quetta to Peshawar. Back then, remember, it reportedly took 214 people, including military personnel, hostage for close to 30 hours. While the authorities highlighted that 18 soldiers and paramilitary personnel were killed, over 340 passengers were freed. At the end of that operation, the BLA said that its fighters executed all hostages, as Pakistan did not agree to a prisoner exchange. Although the Shehbaz Sharif-led government is yet to react on the BLA's ultimatum now, it is apparent as of now that the situation in Balochistan is likely to remain tense in the near future. In a dramatic and highly controversial step, the Netanyahu government has approved the first land registration process in the West Bank since 1967. Palestinian leaders say this move amounting to quiet annexation of the West Bank. Let's just break this down for you bit by bit. First, what exactly has been approved? The cabinet basically has authorized a formal land registration process in Area C of the West Bank. An initial budget of about $77 million has been allocated for the years 2026 to 2030. 35 new government positions will be created to carry out the process. Area C makes up about 60% of the West Bank. It's already under full Israeli military and civil control, reportedly under the terms of the Oslo Accords. However, those agreements envisioned that this land would eventually be transferred to Palestinian jurisdiction. And this is something that has never fully happened. Second, what does land registration even mean? It is basically a legal process that requires anyone claiming ownership of a plot to present proof. If ownership cannot be proven to Israeli authorities, the land can be registered as state land. And this is significant because state land can then be allocated for Israeli development, including settlement expansion. The process itself will be slow. Officials reportedly estimating it could take at least a year and a half to register each plot. Completing registration across Area C could take up to 30 years, reportedly. The government's initial target is to register 15% of unregistered land within 5 years. Third, why is this controversial? Palestinian leadership, remember, has strongly condemned the decision. They are calling it a de facto annexation of occupied territory. They argue that by formalizing land ownership under Israeli law, the government is entrenching permanent control without declaring formal annexation. The European Union has called on Israel to reverse its approval of the process. It warns it as a new escalation and notes it is further aimed at extending Israel's control of the West Bank. Jordan has also criticized the move, urging the international community to intervene. Most countries consider Israeli settlements in the West Bank illegal under international law and view expansion as an obstacle to a two-state solution. Let's also break down for you the political context here behind the decision. Along with Defense Minister, Finance Minister, and the Justice Minister of the country, all of them have argued that the move provides legal clarity and protects Israel's national interests. This step follows another recent decision that expanded Israeli enforcement powers into areas A and B zones, where the Palestinian Authority previously held greater control and allowed private Israeli citizens to purchase land in the territory. Although Netanyahu maintains a close relationship with the US, Trump, who has opposed formal annexation, the current policy stops short of officially declaring sovereignty. And what exactly is at stake here? More than 700,000 Israelis live in the West Bank and East Jerusalem. At the same time, over 300,000 Palestinians live in Area C, many dependent on agricultural and grazing lands. With 2/3 of land in Area C still unregistered, this process could dramatically reshape land ownership patterns and the political future of the territory. Supporters call it administrative regularization, and critics call it annexation by bureaucracy. Either way, the decision marking an escalation in the long-running conflict over land, sovereignty, and the future of a possible Palestinian state. The question also is not just over who owns the land, but what exactly this move will mean for the future of a two-state solution. On to France now, which has come under the scanner for a 5% increase in physical violence and homicides last year. However, this is not all. It has also garnered a reputation for becoming the crypto kidnapping capital of the world. Let's break this down. What does it mean? As digital currency gains importance across the world, wrench attacks, as they are called, have emerged as a growing menace. They are basically physical coercion events where an adversary uses violence or confinement to compel a victim to surrender access to their cryptocurrency assets. France recording 19 wrench attacks in 2025, which is the highest for any country worldwide. Even as we are in mid-February, it has already seen 8 instances of crypto-related abductions, while up to 80 persons are likely to go on trial for wrench attacks in France soon. The lack of deterrence is perceived as a key issue, with no conviction recorded in these kinds of cases till now. The crypto sector in France was shaken when a crypto startup co-founder and his wife were kidnapped in January last year. The ransom demand was $10 million in cryptocurrency, while negotiations with the kidnappers were on for over 48 hours. Reportedly, one of his fingers was severed. The couple was subsequently freed by the police, which took 10 suspects into custody. A French-Moroccan citizen who was the alleged mastermind behind these crimes was detained in Morocco in June 2025. Subsequently, the French government announced that leading crypto entrepreneurs and their families will receive enhanced security. But the general public is equally under threat. A recent crime shocked one and all. On the 4th of February, 35-year-old woman serving as a judicial magistrate and her mother were kidnapped. The kidnapper reportedly threatened the magistrate's partner to pay ransom in cryptocurrency. However, they managed to escape after spending 30 hours in a garage. 6 people have been arrested in connection with that case. Now, what exactly has turned France specifically into one of the most dangerous countries for crypto holders? First things first, there are huge concerns over safety of user data. For instance, in January this year itself, hackers stole data of 50,000 crypto users from crypto tax platform. As per reports, the stolen data was directly linked to at least 3 kidnappings. And the other worrying aspect here is that most of these crimes are being carried out by those who are minors or in their 20s, at the behest of criminals based outside France. They are typically hired via Telegram and other messaging apps and paid a few thousand euros each for carrying out the crime. This crisis resonates globally as well. As per a report from blockchain security firm, 72 Wrench attacks were reported last year, up from 41 in 2024, thus marking a 75% increase. The seriousness of this is also evident from 2025, witnessing 25 kidnappings, 3 murders pertaining to cryptocurrency. The quantum of losses was also quite massive, with over $40.9 million US being stolen. Europe, for that matter, accounted for 40% of these incidents. As cryptocurrency-related kidnappings continue unabated in France, pressure is also growing on Emmanuel Macron's government to enhance the punishment for the abductors. War on the battlefield is also a war within the system. Ukraine's fight is no longer just against Russia alone. The country has been battling an enemy within. A former energy minister in Ukraine has been detained while attempting to leave the country. $100 million in funds was laundered, reportedly. The corruption scandal is now a big problem for the Ukrainian president. More in this detailed report.
Ukraine bleeds on 2 fronts. Russian missiles pound the east, but betrayal strikes from within. The war-torn nation begs the West for billions to survive invasion. But former energy minister German Galushenko was nabbed at the Polish border. He was forced out of his government role last year. He was among the officials named in a corruption scandal. He has been charged with money laundering and involvement in a criminal group. A massive $100 million corruption scandal has engulfed Kyiv. The scandal threatens to engulf Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's administration. He had swept to power before Russia's full-scale invasion on the promise to root out corruption. But now his closest aides are getting named and shamed. Earlier, Zelensky's chief of staff, Andriy Yermak, resigned after his home was searched. In January 2025, Ukraine's military uncovered a massive scam. $40 million were embezzled, which were meant for the purchase of 100,000 mortar rounds. The detention of a former energy chief at the border sends a chilling message. Even in wartime, there are those who allegedly see crisis as opportunity. For Ukraine, the battlefield is not just in Donetsk or Kherson. It runs through ministries, state firms, and procurement files. The question now is stark. Can Kyiv win both wars, at the front and at home? Bureau Report, WION. World is one.
Amid the concerns that have been raised regarding Donald Trump's health and the president dismissing the concerns and questions, there is a whole new twist in the tale. Rather, a new term that has been thrown into the mix by none other than the governor of California. It's called sundowning. In simple terms, it refers to confusion during hours of darkness experienced by elderly individuals in some cases. Before we tell you more about this, the California governor basically has claimed that the president is, quote-unquote, sundowning hard. And this is not the first time he has taunted Donald Trump about his health. According to the California governor, Trump's social media posting behavior is evidence that he is dealing with early symptoms of dementia. First, what exactly is sundowning? The phenomenon is also known as late-day confusion, sundowner syndrome, or sundown syndrome, but can also occur at any time. It is most often experienced by people with dementia. People who experience sundowning can feel a variety of emotions. This includes anxiety, sadness, also agitation, restlessness. It can also lead to confusion, paranoia, delusions, and hallucinations. According to the Alzheimer's Association, sundowning is characterized by increased confusion that people with Alzheimer's and dementia may experience from dusk through night. Coming back to the accusation laid out by the California governor, it comes at a time also when there have been a series of instances when Trump has muddled his words, and the governor's press office, in fact, has gone to the extent of saying the sundowning starts earlier every day, quote unquote. Remember, amid questions about his health, Trump has also chosen to compare himself in that respect with his predecessor, Joe Biden. And the California governor, who is viewed as a likely presidential candidate in 2028, has repeatedly been attacking Trump over his health. And with this latest attack, there are no signs, definitely, of this war of words easing anytime soon. In a powerful display of maritime strength and global outreach, Visakhapatnam is preparing to host multiple naval gatherings in the region, the International Fleet Review and Exercise, starting today until the 25th of February. The Indian Navy is basically bringing together naval forces from over 70 countries, including major powers like the United States and Russia. More than 60 warships, multiple naval aircraft will be participating, making this one of the largest coordinated maritime events. According to the Indian Navy, in fact, naval ships from Thailand, Australia, Sri Lanka have already arrived in Visakhapatnam for the exercise. For the first time, in fact, countries like Germany, the Philippines, UAE are also reportedly joining the fleet review, underscoring India's expanding maritime partnerships. Since 2001, India has used fleet reviews to bring together navies from across the world to strengthen interoperability and maritime domain awareness. This year itself, the Eastern Seaboard becomes the center of global maritime engagement. All eyes will be on India's indigenous aircraft carrier, INS Vikrant, which will reportedly serve as the showpiece of the fleet review. Earlier today itself, the Indian Navy also inaugurated the Milan village at the Eastern Naval Command, marking the start of a broader sequence of engagements and joint drills at Visakhapatnam. The harbour and sea phases of the exercises will focus on anti-submarine warfare, air defence, search and rescue, cooperative security operations. While these events, India is not just hosting ships, it is also asserting its key role as a crucial security partner in the Indo-Pacific and global maritime. The race to power in Hungary is heating up. Viktor Orban's high-pitched Eurosceptic stance is up against the opposition candidate who basically wants the country to align with the European bloc, and the two rivals are pulling the strings in different directions. And to make things even more interesting, the US president has now chosen his favorite. Hungary is heading to the parliamentary elections on the 12th of February, or on the 12th of April. And Orban's party is up against the opposition party. The parliamentary polls are normally the internal affairs of the country, but this time the campaign in Hungary is a mix of both politics as well as geopolitics. Orban has accused Ukraine of interfering in the upcoming elections, in fact. He says that the European Union is a bigger threat to Hungary than Russia. Listen in.
We must get used to the idea that those who love freedom should not fear the East, but Brussels, and people should turn their anxious eyes toward Brussels. Fear-mongering about Putin is primitive and unserious. Brussels, however, is a palpable reality and a source of imminent danger.
In fact, Orban has received an endorsement from US President Donald Trump. US Secretary of State has also reiterated Trump's commitment to Orban's victory during his visit to Budapest. Listen to this now.
President Trump is deeply committed to your success because your success is our success. Because this relationship we have here in Central Europe through you is so essential and vital for our national interests.
And challenging Orban for the office of Prime Minister is the opposition candidate who is promising to bring Hungary closer to the European Union and Ukraine. And according to the latest polls, he is leading the parliamentary election race with 48% of the public support, Orban's party trailing with 39% support. If Orban fails to flip this trend, he could also lose his grip on power and the Prime Minister's seat after 16 long years. The digital frontier has become a predatory playground. Criminals are now using AI for crimes. Global syndicates are now deploying hyper-realistic bots to bypass human intuition and strip bank accounts bare. The romance scam space is getting more dangerous, where your next soulmate might just be a cold, calculating algorithm. Take a look.
Searching for love has become a high-stakes gamble with your life savings. For millions of lonely souls, the ping of a dating app notification represents hope, a chance at connection, and a cure for isolation. But behind the charming profile pictures and the poetic late-night texts lies a dark, industrial-scale operation. It is a world where emotions are weaponized and vulnerability is viewed as a scalable commodity. FBI has now revealed that Americans lost $16 billion to cybercrime in 2024. 1 in 7 American adults hit by romance scam. The scam follows a brutal rhythmic script. It begins with love bombing, an intense barrage of AI-generated affection before moving to a manufactured crisis. Once the bot earns the trust of the individual, then the real scam begins. A sick relative, a frozen business account, or a lucrative crypto investment. The excuses are common and urgent. The victim, blinded by a love, sends the wire transfer. By the time the screen goes black, the money is laundered through a dozen offshore accounts. Social media platforms say they are fighting back, rolling out AI detection tools and warning prompts. Governments around the world are tightening laws. But the scamsters are brutal. Every safeguard is met with smarter deception. In the age of artificial intimacy, the oldest human need connection has become the newest weapon, and the cost is counted not just in dollars, but in broken trust. Bureau report, WION World is one.
New research is raising serious questions about what really happens at the moment of death. Death is currently defined as the irreversible stoppage of heart function and brain activity, but researchers now suggest that this process may not be as instant as once believed. Scientists presenting at the American Association for the Advancement of Science conference in Phoenix saying the human brain may remain active and possibly conscious for minutes or even hours after a person has been declared dead. Anna Fowler of Arizona State University analyzed studies on cardiac arrest survivors and found that some patients report awareness during periods when they appeared to be in no measurable brain activity. According to her review, up to 20% of people who survive cardiac arrest describe conscious experiences, sometimes even recalling events that occurred while they were clinically unresponsive. Other studies, meanwhile, have shown that the brain can continue firing electrical signals for several minutes after the heart stops, and in some cases, even longer under special conditions. These findings are prompting calls for a re-evaluation of how doctors define death and how long the efforts should continue. Researchers also saying the timing of organ donation procedures may need careful review to ensure both scientific accuracy as well as ethical clarity. Death may not be a single moment. Instead, it could be a process, one that unfolds in stages and one that modern medicine is beginning to fully understand. Is intermittent fasting a one-stop solution for weight loss? A new review of scientific evidence has shattered in some ways some widely held myths about the practice. Researchers, in fact, have been saying, and they analyzed data from 22 studies published from 2016 to 2024. They featured close to 2,000 participants across North America, Australia, China, Denmark, Germany, Norway, and Brazil. Let's just look at what they deduced. The researchers found that intermittent fasting, which includes fasting on certain days of the week and eating during a set period every day, made no difference to people's weight loss or quality of life. For instance, the study stressed that people lost only about 3% of their body weight through fasting, which is far below the 5% mark that doctors consider clinically meaningful. According to the research, the impact of occasional fasting is similar to that of following traditional dietary advice, like restricting calories or eating different types of food. However, the researchers noting that further study is required to ascertain the satisfaction level among people and the status of their comorbidities. The study coming at a juncture when obesity has emerged as a major challenge worldwide. Many people are also resorting to weight loss injections and pills to address the condition. The seriousness of obesity was reinforced with the recent study indicating that people with this condition are 70% more likely to be hospitalized or die from an infectious disease, including flu and pneumonia. North Korea's leader has unveiled new homes for the families of soldiers killed fighting for Russia in Ukraine. And this move comes just days before a key North Korean Workers' Party Congress in Pyongyang. North Korean state media showed Kim Jong-un touring a newly built district in the capital. He dedicated the houses to what he called young martyrs who made the ultimate sacrifice for the motherland. State media also showed his daughter by his side, fueling speculation about her role as heir apparent.
하고 아름답게 가꾸고 지키고 빛내는 것이야말로 열사들의 고결한 삶에 드리는 최대의 경의가 된다고.
South Korean intelligence estimates suggest that around 11,000 to 12,000 North Korean troops are currently deployed in Russia's coast region. Some reports placing the total presence, including support units, at as high as 20,000. North Korean forces have been fighting alongside Russian troops, and South Korea says 6,000 North Koreans have been killed or injured. In return for its troops and ammunition, including artillery, shells and missiles, Pyongyang is believed to be receiving advanced military technology, food, fuel, and financial payments from Moscow. Analysts are saying Kim Jong-un's new housing project is a calculated move to honor the fallen, justify the deployment, and maintain stability at home. Pakistan cricket is once again in crisis mode. Another defeat to India has led to a strong backlash in the Pakistan cricket community. And this time, it's not just the players, but the PCB chairman, Mohsin Naqvi, who is in the line of fire. A defeat to India has become routine for Pakistan over the last few years. But the lack of competitiveness shown by the Pakistan team has not only raised questions about the quality of players in the squad, but also led to former Pakistan cricketers criticizing the PCB chairperson. Now, Naqvi, who is also the Interior Minister of Pakistan, attended the game on Sunday but left the match before it ended. While the official reason behind his early exit from the stadium is not known, the timing of his departure coincided with Pakistan losing quick wickets during the chase. And that seems to have not gone down too well with Pakistan cricket fans. And they are reportedly unsatisfied with Naqvi's dual role as PCB chief and Interior Minister of Pakistan. More criticism awaited Naqvi, and it came from former Pakistan pacer Shoaib Akhtar, who did not mince his words. Here's exactly what he said. One guy who does not know anything has become the Pakistan Cricket Board's chairman. What can you do? how will the team run? You have made a superstar out of a player, Babar Azam, who cannot win you a game. The biggest crime in the world is to give a big job to incompetent people. That statement on your screen. It was another disappointing night for Pakistan fans who lamented the lack of fight shown by the players, while the management has also been called into question.
Every game has a plan, and every team comes with a plan and executes accordingly. But here the situation is such that our selectors don't even know which 11 players out of the 16 will play Pakistan's most crucial match. If the players don't know whether they are playing or not, how will they prepare themselves? And you have seen the outcome. Pakistan is a name, a brand, a pride of cricket. But Pakistan's flawed policies have not only affected this game, but also inflicted severe damage to the hearts of millions of Pakistanis.
On this day, February 16, 1959, 67 years ago, Fidel Castro took oath as the Prime Minister of Cuba, becoming the youngest person to hold the post and beginning a rule that would shape the island nation for nearly 5 decades. He stepped into power just 6 weeks after the dictator fled the country into exile. Castro, remember, had already built a reputation as a fiery student activist. In the year 1953, he led a failed attack on the Cuban army barracks, landed in prison, and later secured release under an amnesty. From exile in Mexico, he regrouped, returned with armed rebels, and steadily launched attacks against Batista's forces. By January 1959, he escaped and Castro seized control of Havana. In the year 1961, the US backed Cuban exiles in the CIA-backed Bay of Pigs invasion. Castro's forces crushed the invasion within days, further consolidating his grip on power and deepening Cuba's ties with the Soviet Union during the Cold War era. During his tenure, Castro nationalized industries, confronted Washington, survived decades of economic hardship and political isolation. He formally handed power to his brother in 2008 and remained a major figure in Cuban politics until his death in 2016. With that, it's a wrap, leaving you with Gravitas Worldview. This is me, Molly Gambhir, signing off. Thanks very much for watching.
And welcome to a brand new edition of South India, a daily dynamic show that will capture the pulse of southern states.
By blending the special stories, the breaking alerts, and the culture developments as well.
Where darkness hides behind every corner. Where the truth is stranger than fiction. A show that dives deep into the stories which shock and mystify. Unsolved murders. Psychopaths who defy explanation. International war crimes. And and millions swindled in financial fraud. The victims, the accused, and the sinister plot. Prime is your front row seat to darkness.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide, because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is one.
Campaigns, elections, alliances, controversies, and power play. Beyond the noise and rhetoric, no election, no ballot issue too small. Stories that analyze global and domestic politics. More than just headlines. A dedicated show with varied perspectives, expert take, citizens' voices, detailed ground reports, and in-depth coverage from political corridors of the world. This is Race to Power. Only on WION. World is one.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch. WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide, because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North Africa.